member for Brantford-Brent.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has lost confidence of his cabinet, his caucus, and all Canadians as he desperately clings to power. Yesterday, the Liberals dropped their fall economic statement and literally ran out of the House. A $62 billion deficit, missing their target by a whopping 55%. The end result? Canadians are now paying more on debt interest charges than on health care. When will this Prime Minister end the misery, call a carbon tax election, so Conservatives can finally fix what they have broken?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take the opportunity to inform the Justice critic that, in fact, in that fall economic statement, he would have seen a series of measures that address community safety in our communities across the country. He would have seen measures that crack down on auto theft. He would have seen stricter bail and sentencing provisions. He would have seen provisions in the sex offender registries to get tough on child sex predators. He would have seen securing our borders to provide confidence to our American counterparts, cracking down on money laundering and terrorist financing. These are all measures that we all have an interest in promoting, passing, and getting funded in this country to keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Brantford-Brent.
After 9 years of this Prime Minister's economic vandalism and inflationary spending, he has added more to the debt than all previous Prime Ministers combined. Now Canadians are paying more. Our national debt now sits at $1.24 trillion, an astronomical number that our future generations will have to deal with. Canada's promise of powerful paychecks, affordable housing, safe streets have all been shattered under the NDP Liberals. This Prime Minister has lost confidence of his caucus, the House, and Canadians. When will he call an immediate carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, that member is a former Crown attorney. He knows, in terms of keeping communities safe, it starts with addressing the prolific amount of guns that are in our communities. What's in that fall economic statement? $597 million to take weapons off of our streets. What else is in there? Mr. Speaker, that member knows that organized criminality is a problem in Canada from coast to coast to coast. What we are doing with organized criminality is ensuring tougher penalties for financial crimes, cracking down on money laundering, and cracking down on terrorist financing. You get at the cause of the problem when you address the money flow. That's what we're doing in the fall economic statement. We wish we could have their support.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has lost the confidence of his ministers, of his MPs, and of Canadians. But despite all of that, he is obstinately clinging to power. After 9 years of economic vandalism and inflationary spending, he's accumulated more debt than all of his predecessors put together. Result, Canadians are now paying $53.7 billion in interest on the debt. That's more than they pay every year for health transfers, Mr. Speaker. I'll say it again, more than for health transfers. Can the Prime Minister set his ego aside, think about Canadians, and call an election? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I would invite my colleague to read the fall economic statement, because if he were to do that, he would see that Canada is in a particularly good financial position compared to all of its G7 counterparts. They're expecting great economic growth next year. We've signed an agreement with the Government of Quebec for hundreds of millions of dollars to help the forestry sector in his region, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives hadn't said a word about that. When it's time to help Canadians, they are never present. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has lost the confidence of his ministers, of his MPs, and of Canadians. As if the $40 billion guardrail wasn't enough, well, they've given us a fall economic statement with a deficit of $62 billion. So much for the guardrail. Canadians are paying more in interest on the debt than they're paying for health care. He is desperately clinging to power. Enough is enough. When's the election? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More good news for Quebecers today with the publication of the Clean Electricity Strategy. That's hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to be invested in collaboration with Hydro-Quebec, with the Government of Quebec, and with businesses to develop the electric system that we'll need for the future to decarbonize our transit sector, to decarbonize industry and buildings. That's how we're going to build the economy and the jobs and the Canada of the 21st century.